Listen, we're in the Champions League. We're in the Champions League. Finishing top 3. We're in the Champions League. Where's Liverpool? Not there. Where's Chelsea? Not there. Where's Spurs? Not there. Oh my God! You're not going blind because you did not qualify.
What's going on, guys? John here, checking in for the United View, the match report of the game. Manchester United versus Bayern Munich at Old Trafford in the Champions League. And the match has ended 1-0 to Bayern Munich. And this defeat tonight, in addition to the 3 previous defeats, means that with 4 losses, just 1 win and 1 draw for Erik ten Hag and Manchester United in this European campaign, means that we finished dead last in the group. And not only are we just knocked out of Champions League football, we also are out of contention for Europa League football and out of European football in its entirety. I'm sure once the dust settles, I'll maybe think about it in some sort of saving grace and think, okay, maybe now Manchester United can just focus on the Premier League and just the domestic front of things. But for me, this entire Champions League campaign is analogous to our season in its entirety. It's symbolic to how performances have been absolutely unacceptable from Manchester United this entire season. And in fairness to Erik ten Hag and Manchester United today, I thought against a really strong-sided Bayern Munich, I thought we played relatively well. Many people thought that Thomas Tuchel was going to field a weaker side, considering the fact that they are 6 points behind Bayern Leverkusen in the Bundesliga. They thought maybe Tuchel might rest some of his key players. He's been playing the likes of Kim Min-jae and Upamecano religiously. Maybe we thought they'd see a bit of a change with respect to the starting 11, but with Bayern Munich having won 39 of their past group stage matches in the Champions League, it looked like Tuchel wanted to extend that record, and it showed, because today Bayern Munich showed a very professional performance. They stayed resolute, they stayed compact, they stayed very patient in any sort of build-up, looking for the right opportunity, because they knew that Manchester United, given the pressure surrounding the situation, they were going to do everything that it took to try and get a result. And to be fair to Manchester United, I thought we played a lot better than we have in the previous Champions League matches this season. But it wasn't good enough. It simply was just not good enough. From the kickoff, I thought Manchester United were going to be in a bit of trouble because Bayern Munich almost found themselves with a decent chance. But actually, Manchester United responded relatively well. Throughout the opening 20 minutes or so, Manchester United build up phases of play really well through the thirds. The initial phase of play from the likes of Harry Maguire and Luke Shaw in particular, I thought was great. I thought our midfield, although Sofiane Amrabat and Scott McTominay didn't have a world-class performance, I thought Sofiane Amrabat in particular had a decent game. This is where I get a little stuck, because my frustration was starting to seep in very, very slowly with the likes of Antony and Diogo Dalot in particular. I don't like singling out individuals, especially when our entire performances throughout the entire campaign has been relatively poor. But watching Diogo Dalot and Antony in particular was extremely frustrating. I want to support Antony, and I back him. I back Diogo Dalot. I back every single one of these Manchester United lads that play for this badge. But that performance today, I couldn't help but just scream and be frustrated. As we're finding opportunity, as we're finding rhythm, as we're finding chances, although there were glimmers of decent situations involving Antony and Diogo Dalot, I thought Dalot had a better performance than Antony, and I thought Dalot worked his absolute socks off, and so did Antony, to be fair. They all worked their absolute socks off. But sometimes it's not just about working your ass off. That's a given, especially when you're playing at the highest of levels in football. The front four, I thought, was relatively underwhelming. Antony, there was a moment where he had won the ball back after working so hard to press the Bayern Munich player. And him and Diogo Dalot sort of went at this back and forth. They kind of exchanged passes, give and goes here and there. And then Antony did something that I started getting a little bit scared of, because he started doing step-overs, standing step-overs. Standing step over so much to a point that Diogo Dalot, who was expecting a return ball immediately, moved thinking that the ball was going to come. But because Diogo thought that, okay, this is the perfect opportunity for him to break through the bank of the back line and run in between the channels, he got fed a little too short from Antony, and then that ball got returned back to Antony in a skewed fashion, and the ball went out of bounds. That situation right there was the first moment where I started really getting concerned. Like, my cold sweat started coming, because when you're sitting there seeing that, you start asking questions about the focus levels. You start asking questions about the quality. I'm not saying Antony doing standing stepovers is the be-all, end-all. Because to be fair, like I said, Antony played a lot more efficient than his previous performances throughout, especially his entire season and seasons prior to. But that moment really just kind of, I was thinking like, oh, what are we doing? We were doing so well. We were playing efficiently. We were staying solid. We were keeping things simple. And then we just started looking lackluster. Harry Maguire started driving forward, and then all of a sudden he kicks the ball out of play, starts holding his groin. And then for a brief moment, after a long, lengthy spell of paused gameplay, he comes back on the pitch, and I'm thinking, okay, hopefully it's okay. And then he receives the ball, and then he actually just kicks it out again because he realizes, yeah, he can't continue. And then steps up Jonny Evans. I love Jonny Evans. He has been nothing but a loyal servant for Manchester United. But with the greatest of respect to Jonny Evans, Manchester United should not be playing Jonny Evans in the Champions League. When the stakes are this high, Manchester United should have been playing Kim Min-jae, the player that I said at the beginning of January this year. I've been raving about him. He should be the one on the bench, rotating with in and out with Rafael Varane so that he can ease into the squad. He can ease into the Premier League, not be tossed into the fray. But instead came on Jonny Evans. And I thought he played relatively okay. Nothing out of the ordinary, nothing extraordinary. But it really just spoke levels as to what Manchester United have been this season. Injuries after injuries after injuries. Lacking quality across the entirety of the pitch. Lacking ability to do anything in the final third. I don't want to keep bashing on Antony, but Antony, Diogo Dalot, even Alejandro Garnacho on the left-hand side, we saw limitations tonight. We saw limitations throughout the entirety of the Champions League and many parts of the Premier League as well. Let's be real. There were so many crosses put in, including Bruno Fernandes, who put in cross after cross in the second half when things were a little too late. And most of those crosses couldn't even beat the first man. Mazraoui just needed to stick his foot out. Kingsley Coman needed to stick his foot out. Daimler came on, stuck his foot out. None of the crosses were effective. And I felt so bad for Rasmus Højlund, who ran his absolute socks off till the very end. I saw him sprinting in the 93rd minute to Manuel Neuer, and you can clearly tell he's on his last legs. He was probably on his last legs in minute 80. And he still kept going. Still kept pressing to try and affect the game in the best way possible. But there was not a single service to Rasmus Højlund, despite good movements in the box. Alejandro Garnacho, you guys know how much I love Alejandro. He's been phenomenal for us every time he's featured. But the reason why I kept saying for every Manchester United fan to cool and calm your expectations is because he's still a kid. He's still a young teenager. Literally, his body is not ready to perform at the highest levels. Today against Mazraoui, I thought Mazraoui didn't have the greatest of games, but he wasn't all that too troubled by Alejandro Garnacho. Kingsley Coman, one little shove and Alejandro Garnacho was knocked off. Luke Shaw fed in a decently weighted pass, but he just couldn't run with the pace. He couldn't physically outmuscle either Coman or Mazraoui. And every single hard-worked chance, every single hard-worked ball that we won in possession, we lost it because we were ineffective in the final third. That has been the story of Manchester United in some ways, at least going forward. I said Harry Kane should have came to Manchester United alongside Rasmus Højlund because Rasmus Højlund is still a very young, unproven striker. Harry Kane, today you saw the levels of quality that he brought. Not only is he in the 18-yard box ready to try and put his foot at the end of a receiving cross, he was deep in his own half when things got tough, linking up play, simple, connecting passes, just being that extra man to form the triangles across the entirety of the pitch. Every single element of Bayern Munich's game and the players looks levels ahead of Manchester United. We made too many mistakes during this Champions League campaign to deserve anything. Mistakes from Onana, putting Casemiro in a dangerous situation to force the red card. Mistakes across the entirety of the pitch. Losses against who was it? Copenhagen, Galatasaray, whoever it was, Bayern Munich. I don't even remember. We probably lost against everybody. It wasn't good enough. This Champions League campaign simply has not been good enough. I really hope and wish and pray that some players, if they want constructive criticism, they don't need to watch YouTube channels. They need to watch themselves. Watch their replays. Watch what they're doing. I don't know. I'm just going to shut off after this and just hope and pray and reset that Liverpool don't hammer us. Because at this point, with Harry Maguire, who's been phenomenal for us, and Luke Shaw, injured again, I can only hope and pray that it's not going to be another 7-0. I am genuinely concerned at this point. And I'm not somebody that's usually genuinely concerned about any of these things. But now I'm concerned. I don't even want to talk about a man of the match. Man of the match, the Old Trafford fans who kept applauding and cheering and supporting every single one of those lads out there. That's it for me, guys. If you guys enjoyed watching this video, if you guys agreed with any of the points that I made, and if you're not subscribed to the channel, please consider subscribing to the United View. And if you guys maybe can do me a favor and come check me out on my channel as well, that'd be greatly appreciated. That's it for me. Hopefully, better things are ahead of us in the Premier League. I really hope and pray that this Champions League exit at least brings about some sort of sigh of relief for the lads so that they can at least get a break or something. I don't freaking know. That's it for me. Be happy, be healthy, take care of your loved ones. I'll see you.